Hello and welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Richard and this is Track of the Week on Lap of the World. Last Friday we virtually visited and learned about the northernmost racetrack in the world, Arctic Circle Raceway in Norway. If you're watching this from Norway, then tusen takk for alt, both to the individuals who helped me directly and to everyone who supported that last video. I believe you are my largest international audience to date. Moving on to this week, now having covered the highest, lowest, and northernmost tracks in the world, there are no bonus points left for guessing where we are headed next. We round out our month learning what we can about Autódromo Carlos Romero in the Tierra del Fuego region of Argentina, the southernmost racetrack in the world. Autódromo Carlos Romero de Tulhuin resides in the Tierra del Fuego province of southern Argentina. Translating to English as Land of Fire, its namesake archipelago forms the sub-Antarctic reaches of the region broadly referred to as Patagonia. You know, that place all of your overlanding friends dream of going. For those unfamiliar, Patagonia is not just a premium outdoor lifestyle brand, but is a vast area of South America home to some truly epic natural scenery. This all terminates on the southern end at Cape Horn, the tip of South America and notoriously treacherous shipping route in the pre-Panama Canal days. Cape Horn is also the southernmost point on any continent other than Antarctica. Our circuit this week, Autódromo Carlos Romero, lies just 100 miles north of that continental terminus, which makes it by some margin the southernmost permanent racetrack in the world. After all the information I was essentially handed on a platter on Arctic Circle Raceway, researching its global opposite proved a real challenge. For starters, Autódromo Carlos Romero has no electronic presence that I could uncover. The track is clearly active based on posts to social media, news outlets, and event schedules, but there is no website, no About Us page, no Facebook page, no Instagram account, nothing. It seems like any communication is done through one of the sanctioning bodies that host events at the circuit. That seems to get the job done for hosting races, but when you're trying to research the history of a place that's written about almost exclusively in a language you don't speak, it makes things a little tricky. Neither the English nor Spanish wiki sites were any help other than stating the obvious that it's a racetrack and the southernmost in the world. I even went as far as asking a native Spanish-speaking friend of mine to try searching. Still nothing. Even the simplest factoids are just non-existent. Nowhere on any site or resource did I find even basic measurements. It's only thanks to Google Earth's measuring tool that I could ascertain an approximate 1.3 mile or 2.1 kilometer lap. Again, only thanks to Google's tool and some corroborating photos to judge the scale. With cars in the frame, can we speculate that the track surface could be as much as 40 feet wide over most of its length? As for when it was built, the best I can do right now is state that it was probably but not definitely built sometime between 1972 and 2001. The town of Tulhuin wasn't recognized as a town before 1972. I'm forced to assume that the track didn't predate it. Beyond that, I tried to get creative here, but given this region of South America must not have much strategic importance in the typical governmental sense, I was only able to get back to 2001 on USGS satellite images before the limited tech and limited resolution made it impossible to discern the existence or lack thereof of a racetrack just to the northeast of the town. So we are really just left with what we can see. In addition to the track, Carlos Romero's facility does boast some structures, including an observation tower and what looks like a decent number of covered, if not fully enclosed, garages. The circuit itself looks to have two possible layouts with a maximum configuration of 11 turns, which given the total length means it's probably pretty quote-unquote technical to drive. So informationally, I have one last lifeline, and if they come through, you may see a follow-up video on this. But for now, we at least don't have to speculate about what it looks like to drive a lap of the track. While the circuit itself has no internet presence, some of those who race on it certainly do, and were kind enough to allow me to use some on-car video from a 2020 competition. What you're riding in, by the way, is, near as I can tell, a quote TC Pista car. I actually had to look this up. At first I thought they were some kind of homebrew hot rod, but what you're actually looking at is in fact the Junior Varsity or Busch series to the Turismo Carretera or TC series. That is in turn a stock car racing series that is massively popular in Argentina in particular. I had never actually heard of Turismo Carretera, so I was today years old when I learned that it is currently the oldest continually functional racing series in the world. Think about that for a second. As a quick refresher, think about racing series that have been around a while. Trans Am and a few others were products of the 60s. NASCAR started in 1948 on Daytona Beach. Formula One was founded in 1946. IndyCar would probably be older, with races kind of tangentially related to the namesake speedway dating back to 1905, but there have been so many schisms and splits and mergers in that IndyCar realm that there hasn't been a continuous series that predates the first Argentinian TC green flag, which flew in 1937. So this series has history, but does it have pedigree? Well, I put forth that the 1940 and 1941 TC championships were claimed for Chevrolet by none other than Juan Manuel Fangio, before, going on to win 5 Formula One World Championships between 4 different teams, back when drivers' lifespans were measured more in races than seasons. Through the 60s and 70s, the series also produced several other drivers who had real prospects in European formulas up to and including races in F1, though none obviously had the same success as Fangio. So all of that is to say, yes, this series has pedigree, which makes it even that more interesting considering I'd never heard of it. Broadly classified as stock car racing, the chassis used in TC appear to be tube-frame silhouette cars built to loosely resemble production models. That's not unusual, but what is unusual is that the production cars they mimic were built, in this case, 3 to 4 decades ago. While TC has deliberately avoided tech creep for budgetary concerns and kept some classic body shells for tradition, don't let that fool you. At the pointy end of the field, these have the air of pretty refined machines on the order of non-production based touring cars anywhere else in the world. The current field of IKDA Torino, Chevy SS, Ford Falcon, and Polara GTX use 3-liter inline-6 motors spun to about 9,000 RPM and putting out around 450 horsepower. The rest of the car is built to a rule set meant to encourage good racing in favor of raw performance. The past decade has seen a classic Ford vs. Chevy sparring match for the series crown, with Ford landing the most recent blow in 2020, but only to avoid 4 straight Chevy championships. The existence of this series and its grassroots feeder series goes a long way to explaining the sheer number of small road courses in Argentina. With something approaching 50 circuits in the country as a whole, sure, it's well short of the United States, but considering its football rival to the north, Brazil, only has half that number of tracks with nearly 5 times the population, it seemed incongruous with the rest of South America when I was building my map, and more on the order of a European country. Which, incidentally, is where we are headed next week. Well, sort of. Used to be. You'll get the point. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed learning along with me a little bit more about Argentinian motorsports and Autódromo Carlos Romero, the southernmost racetrack in the world. As I said, I may do a follow-up on this track if I'm able to get enough more information to warrant it, given how much I wasn't able to discover this time, and that I have a few lines in the water as we speak. But until that happens, thanks for watching Track of the Week on Lap of the World. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like below, and if you enjoy learning about interesting road racing tracks around the world, then consider subscribing and clicking the little bell. Then you'll get a notification the next time I post a video like this one, or one where I can actually go out and visit and drive a track myself. So until next time though, I'm Richard, this is Lap of the World, and I will see you all in the next video, if not at the track.